get to the yard, we're ready to do big things. From the job site to the ballpark, we come together and gear up with pride, ready to perfect our craft and dare to be great. Strauss High Performance Workwear is proud to partner with Major League Baseball, celebrating the preparation and dedication it takes to safely get the job done. Because whether you're on the field or in the field, your gear is a source of pride. Strauss and Major League Baseball. Gear up, go yard.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. Agricultural meteorologist Greg Soulje is back with us today for a midweek update. Welcome, Greg. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Nice to be with you on a little more autumnal feel across a good part of the heartland here on this Tuesday. Couldn't stop thinking about the baseball playoffs. I guess we have our World Series teams lined up. The Dodgers, no big surprise there. And believe it is the Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series for this year. Kind of a disappointing loss for the Seattle Mariners. And what would have been, a West Coast Pacific Ocean type of World Series would have been if it had played out. But so it goes here in these last
so it goes,
days of
exactly.
baseball. Yes.
And you talk about autumn, fall here. I'm seeing reports online of some, severe winter weather coming through, Greg.
Don't get me started. I'm waiting for a memo, and I'm in trouble for popping off about it. But that's the problem with just so many non-experienced degree, whatever, you get your hands on this stuff, and it's fine for it to be out there. All the data that used to be on specialized machines is on the internet, and you just take one panel that there's no thought process on getting from A to B to C to D. And you can just slap it out in there and get people to follow that is just bad, wrong information. So it's nice to take a look at and talk about, but that's about it. So whatever you might have seen on that GFS model that is, I think it was centered on somewhere right around Halloween, it will not be as spooky as that thing portrays. Stay the course with us here on This Week in Agribusiness and Feedstuff 365. We will not let you down.
And that's why we do this, right? To make sure everybody has the facts and knows exactly what's going to happen. So, exactly. Greg, I want to put your slides up, and I also want to take a second here to recognize our weather sponsor, which is Strauss Workwear. Strauss is a family-owned global company in its third generation. They design, manufacture technical workwear and footwear for farmers and craftsmen. Strauss, it's a tool you wear. So, Greg, go ahead and give us your update, if you would, please.
Okay, we shall. And on to the weather maps and charts for the rest of this Tuesday into Tuesday night. And, boy, a pretty good wind system. And we haven't had many of these so far to this early to mid-autumn season that came cranking out of the Dakotas with 50 to 60-mile-an-hour winds. And we'll be looking at 40 to 50-mile-per-hour winds for the rest of the workday. I think we think of the taller crop canopies should have been harvested, with the exception of maybe where some of those stronger winds are out over the northwestern reaches of the Corn Belt with that system, and more rain back in the forecast as well. Boy, I tell you, a good chunk of the southeastern plains, the northern Delta, lower Mississippi Valley into the southern and eastern Corn Belt areas had some significant rain last weekend. The wind will help to dry and firm things up, but anywhere between a half to 1 and some spots an inch and a half worth of rain was much needed, and those heaviest totals were in the worst drought-ridden areas, of which got a couple of showers into the Ohio Valley, some spinning spells of shower activity and that gusty wind out of the upper Midwest through the Great Lakes region, and we'll probably tap into a little bit of lake effect cloudiness and moisture we might have talked about on the live stream here back last week, where some of these Great Lakes waters, actually all of them, are running between 2 and 5, in some spots almost 6 degrees above average. That's pretty warm, warmer than average, and it then opens up a can of worms with additional moisture for the fall, additional early season wet snowfall potential if you get the right setup going, and lake effect, assuming you get the right setup going. So that's something to keep an eye on. But in the meantime, there is some lake-induced moisture into the Michigan, parts of northeast Illinois, northern Indiana, and Ohio later on this afternoon and evening time. The winds will begin to fade out west of the Missouri, where there's a developing warm front, but not before a little patchy frost, and it's not unusual. It's October 21st. It ought to be doing that once in a while across the northern plains, northwestern Corn Belt. But the shower activity still continues on around the Great Lakes region, and welcome rain too for the northeast of New England. Otherwise, the rest of the country pretty quiet, uneventful. Southwestern states, a little leftover scattered shower thunderstorm activity, drier, cooler air into the southeastern states, but we do have a newly named and formed tropical storm. We'll take a look at that in just a second. It came by just really minutes ago. We don't even have the new name on the graphic here, but something trying to get going in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. In any event, more moisture, lake effect style in this spinning area of low pressure up towards the Hudson Bay, James Bay area, auguring down some cooler air, a more typical mid to late October feel for much of the eastern Corn Belt and northern and eastern Corn Belt in particular. And by tomorrow morning, there's still a healthy breeze going on. So I think we got some frost issues, and not unusual, nothing widespread, but maybe as far south as the Missouri line. By Thursday morning, there'll be too much wind and cloud cover still lingering in the eastern Corn Belt. That's probably a Friday morning and Saturday morning, parts of the eastern Corn Belt, mainly south of the Great Lakes areas. Meanwhile, you can see systems developing in the southwestern part of the country, and we are beginning to ramp up this atmospheric river set up in the Pacific Northwest. You can see that just beginning to come on frame come Thursday morning. That's where these models, by the way, these systems are so fast moving, it's hard to pick out each individual wave with colored pencils, let alone numeric guidance, and then drop them east of the divide and spin up low pressure. The GFS is notorious for generating Armageddon stuff out in that range in this particular setup. If you have any ounce of forecasting experience, you just look at it and off to circular file number 13, if you know what I mean, on that particular piece of paper. In any event, the next 48 hours, most of the organized rainfall is in the Pacific Northwestern areas of Washington State. And through the Great Lakes region, a couple of showers down through the lower Mississippi Valley Delta region, and inconsequential out across the western reaches of the country. Yeah, maybe one or two strong storms under what we call a cold air low, and the warmth of the Great Lakes waters. Wouldn't be surprised a little rush of wind, some small hail out of some of these thunderstorms this afternoon into parts of southeast Michigan and northwest Ohio. Otherwise, pretty quiet weather pattern. There on the X there, and it was came out just minutes ago, really too fast for even the National Hurricane Center to slap a name on it. That's Tropical Storm Melissa, that X area. I believe it was former investigation storm number 98, I think is what the Air Force had called it. Anyway, that is a system in the southwestern Gulf, and it will probably have some element of an impact on moisture moving into the southeastern plains and Delta region, probably in the next 5 to 6 days. You'll see the track is to the west-northwest. It's a little more favorable setup for moisture, not necessarily stronger or further significant development on what is going to be to turn out to be a busted hurricane season forecast from the feds out across the Atlantic basin. Meanwhile, the tropical Pacific, things are winding down. Little system offshore of Central America that'll be moving out in the open waters over the California stream. There's a colder current of water. That's why it is cold. If you tip your big toe into the waters of the Pacific down towards LA, San Francisco, San Diego, and those systems tend to die out when they encounter that colder California circulation this time of the year. Temperatures on a more November-like note, upper 40s and 50s through the upper Midwest, 60s, but dropping over the eastern and southern Corn Belt, warmth over the western Gulf areas, and everyone else is pretty much at or just a few degrees above average. Exception will be tomorrow in the eastern Corn Belt, daytime readings upper 40s and 50s there, but you can see a warmer air return out through Big Sky Country, the Dakotas, and parts of the northwestern Corn Belt back into the upper 50s and 60s there. That warmth relative to the almost last week of the month of October, where it works into the much of the plain states, eastern half the plains, the Corn Belt, and points out of the east. There's absolutely no cold air, as in ramping up. And you need cold air, by the way, colder than we have available right now to get these systems to crank up like that GFS model was pointing towards on Halloween. The cold air source is there. It is developing pretty quickly. So, same with the snowpack, but it's way up where it ought to be, Siberia and parts of Alaska. And that's where our source region typically gets going with the cold air returns and involvement as we get deeper on into fall and the wintertime season. Overnight readings, again, not unusual. No damage or issues with the back 40 in mind. So mid to upper 30s tomorrow morning, by Thursday morning over parts of the Midwest and Northwestern and Western Corn Belt. Probably the coldest air, and there might be at a half-hour daybreak time frame, maybe 32, 33 in the Wabash Valley, maybe East Central Illinois, low cold spots, river stream valleys, all that kind of stuff. And a little something on the windshield of the pickup truck as well. But again, not unusual for the time of year. And you can see milder nighttime lows back west of the Missouri. Back to the weather maps and charts. There is, by the way, we'll just kind of skip right to it. You can see that U-shaped configuration, that strong trough moving through the western states over Sunday and Monday. It is moving. It's not stalling out. There's no means to cut it off. What we call a cutoff low. It gets kicked out of the main steering currents. It sits there and meanders its way through the middle part of the country. That's more of a late autumn or more likely early winter to mid-spring setup when that materializes over the middle part of the country. But in any event, some rain in the forecast. That is the atmospheric river. In contrast and contrary to the old Pineapple Express, when those systems come in off of Hawaii, although there's hardly any pineapple production down there anymore, and they make a run into Southern California. This is a little more of a hybrid El Nino, La Nina setup. We're kind of actually moving into a neutral state now, into the Pacific Northwest, a system after system. And I do believe Illinois plays Washington out there Saturday. I believe Washington is unranked, but rain and 55 to 58 degree readings for the ball game out there in Seattle for Illinois and Washington. But back to the matters at hand here, middle part of the country, showers on the increase, a couple of thunderstorms, and there's some cooler air on the move across the northern plains, southern Canadian prairie. Oh, there might be a couple of wet snowflakes, but gee, we're almost into November. No big surprise there. And that is system, as you can see, moving along, particularly Monday and Tuesday. You can see actually a system of the southern plains and southern Corn Belt, some shower activity Saturday and Sunday. That thing will reorganize and then move into the upper Midwest. And that is a Pacific high, not an Arctic high. Nothing out of the Northwestern Territories or Canada. So this portrayal on the maps and charts through Tuesday next week looks to be pretty realistic. And I know that model, that GFS panel that whoever slapped out there, it had something a lot worse, and that's towards the Halloween. But do not see that at all. Anyway, little patchy frost and freeze in the Plain States areas, not unusual. I should say in the northern, in the central Corn Belt and eastern Corn Belt areas, significant rain, and that is a much needed rain pattern in some of the worst extreme drought-ridden areas of Missouri, Arkansas, and southward. Some high wind, not unusual for that kind of jet stream current. Those winds over the top of the northern and central Rockies, downslope should look warming. Not Arctic air, warming with that system out of Nebraska and Kansas. And you can see the onslaught of heavy moisture, probably some debris or mudslide potential is going to get going. High snow levels out of Northern California, the Pacific Northwest. But remember, they've had some fire issues in the Pacific Northwest. So you got to watch sometimes when you get these all or nothing, especially all rain systems. You tend to get debris slides into the northern parts of the Cascades and points on southward. Next 7 days, Pacific Northwest. Yeah, meaningful moisture too. Maybe the back end has a little bit of snow up towards Bismarck, Mandan, north of the Canadian border on the back side of that weather system Sunday to Monday. And a pretty good swath of rain getting going over the southeastern plains, southwestern Corn Belt locales. And that'll be on the move to the north and northeast. We are moving into about a 10-day, 2-week spell of some wetter weather. But because we are so well advanced on harvest and we can take some significant moisture again in some of these grounds, I do not foresee this being the end of the harvest season. We will have opportunities to get back at it. And like I said, you need to have your cutoff date for harvest and having some of these livestock areas ready to go with feed and supplies no later than Thanksgiving. After that, all bets are off. Don't call me. The update, the tropics, not the tropics, but the drought monitor, no change as you would expect, since this is the update from last week on Thursday, and it did not and will not take into account until this one coming along this coming Thursday, on the moisture that came through the plains and Corn Belt locales. We should be able to make amends with time in the Pacific Northwest and that drought-ridden weather pattern. The southwestern part of the country may be a different story going forward into late autumn and wintertime. There's a little closer snapshot of those same red corridors, those extreme red corridors of extreme drought had between about 3/4 and as much as about a buck and a little shy of a quarter in rainfall last weekend, northwest Ohio and east central Illinois and southwestward into the Ozarks. Next 6 to 10 days, That is just one heck of a fast upper air flow. No big, large-scale troughs, with the exception of where that cold air is pooling. The snow is piling up Siberia and into Alaska at the current time. Red dashes over Hudson Bay, James Bay, and usually mild air. And this is not anything reflective of major winter storm development by any means across the middle part of the country. So it's this scenario. I know it's the Fed's model run here, but I have at this point, no problem with it. It's not far off what we talked about last weekend on This Week in Agribusiness. Some slight cooling in the Pacific Northwest, but that abates. Cloud cover going out into the early days of November keeps temperatures closer to normal, and some moisture too into the central and southern Corn Belt locales. No big Arctic air intrusions, no big winter storms, and a little more action on the weather maps and charts where we actually need the rain. Much needed rainfall and welcome rain into the Tennessee Valley, parts of the Northern Delta, and some wetter weather too into the upper Midwest. Probably has a little snow baked in up near the Canadian border, an active pattern for the Pacific Northwest in the 6 to 10 day outlook. But then it's a progressive weather system. So we do get significant moisture to round out the month of October. But I think into the early days or first couple of weeks of November, we ought to be in good shape for wrapping up harvest, fall cleanup, getting things ready to go from a livestock standpoint. And this is a pretty good indication of that as we get into the early days of the month of November. Next live stream, that is wrong. That should be November 12th, I believe, Wednesday. And I still struggle with
We'll just take that down. But yes, it is November.
Yes. So November
we
12th.
We already did our October live stream, which you can find on feedstuffs.com on Feedstuffs 365, which was only with last week. So
yeah, see what happens when we talk about all that meteorological nonsense out there.
I know you get Greg all
gets me all frustrated and gets me all worked up. Anyway, let's keep it here. We'll keep you posted.
We like your forecast. We got some more fall ahead. We don't have a major winter storm bearing down on us here in the Midwest or anywhere across the country. It doesn't sound like so. All good. And of course, we'll check back with you on Friday to get an update, Greg. And we can always catch Greg on a number of radio stations across the country, as well as This Week in Agribusiness every weekend on RFD TV and another 100+ stations. So Greg is everywhere, and he's full of great information. So we appreciate his time and joining us here to give us this update. So Greg, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us as well.
Take care.